The first day of my rebirth. The aloof school beauty suddenly went crazy. Right in front of everyone in the class, she aggressively slammed her tongue against my lips. The whole class was stunned. Even the teacher at the podium threw a piece of chalk right at his head. She just stared with teary red eyes. Stop liking my sister. Just like me instead. Turns out she was reborn too. In my past life, my childhood sweetheart and I went from matching school uniforms to a wedding dress. 2 months before the wedding, while I was still completely lost, in the blissful bubble of marrying the person I loved most, my best friend Xie Huaijin came to find me. He showed me screenshots of his chat history with Su Xinyao. The screenshots spanned from the year 2020 to 2022. It started with distant, polite greetings like, "Hello, I'm Guyu's girlfriend. I need your help preparing a birthday surprise for him." And it spiraled into passionate confessions. "Huaijin, I love you, but I have a responsibility toward Guyu, so let's never see each other again." Over those 2 years, without me having any idea, the distance between her and Xie Huaijin had gone from an impossible gap to absolute intimacy. I stared at those screenshots in complete disbelief. And just as I was gasping for air, I heard Xie Huaijin whisper in my ear, "She and I have been together for a long time. Marrying you was just because of pity, since your parents died." Then my so-called best friend used a pleading tone to say the most disgusting thing I'd ever heard. "For the sake of us being best friends, I'm begging you, just give her to me." In an instant, I fell from the highest cloud of happiness, straight into the deepest abyss. I tore up every single photo of me and Xie Huaijin. I smashed every gift Xie Huaijin had ever given me. I refused to break up with Su Xinyao. I insisted on going through with the wedding. But on the night before the wedding, I received a message from Xie Huaijin. "If you marry him, I'll jump off the hotel building where you're holding the wedding." I ignored him. I didn't think someone as shameless and selfish as Xie Huaijin would ever actually kill himself. But the next day he really did jump. From that day on, Xie Huaijin became the unreachable perfect memory in his heart. He started keeping so many lookalikes. Every single one of them was just like him. And I became the person he hated the most. 3 years into our marriage, I was still holding on to the hope that he would eventually come back to our home. That was until I was diagnosed with terminal cancer. The doctor told me not to leave any regrets during my final days. Suddenly it all became clear to me. I didn't want to die as his husband anymore. I wanted to be myself again. So the next time he brought up the divorce, I finally agreed. "So you want a divorce, right? Do these 3 things with me over the next 7 days, and then we'll go get the divorce." Without waiting for Su Xinyao to answer, I continued. "The first thing, come with me to visit my parents." This was a promise he made back when he confessed his feelings to me. He had said back then, "After we get married, we'll visit your parents every single year. We'll tell them just how happy we are together." He clearly remembered what he had said too. His eyes went blank for a moment. "Using your parents to guilt-trip me? It's disgusting." He thought this was just another one of my pathetic ploys to get back together. Su Xinyao curled his lip and said coldly, "And the second thing?" I forced a small smile. "The second thing, I want $100,000. Su Xinyao sneered at me. "Just 100,000. He pulled out a card and said, "There's 500,000 in here. Is that enough?" I reached out to take it, but he gripped the card tightly. "I hope this 500,000 can buy off every single connection between us." The cold touch of that card seemed to pierce right through to my heart. My voice rasped as I replied, "It will. It definitely will." Then he pulled out a card and asked, "There's 500,000 in here. Is that enough?" I reached out to take it, but he gripped the card tightly, refusing to let go. "I hope this 500,000 is enough to buy our way out of everything between us." The freezing touch of the card on my skin seeped straight into my heart. I rasped out, "Yes, it will. It definitely will. Because this is something he promised me. Money to buy my burial plot. Once a long time ago, I saw an elderly couple by the side of the road, their hair turning gray. They were leaning on each other, slowly walking forward. I sighed to Su Xinyao and said, "When we reach that age, will we still be together?" Su Xinyao held my hand and said, "Of course we will. I promised I'd stay by your side for a lifetime. And I will never break that promise." I teased him, "Well, what if I die before you?" He replied, "Then I'll just buy a double burial plot. You wait for me down there, let me finish settling everything up here. And then I'll come to be with you." Now I really am going to die. I need him to fulfill the promise he once made. After he left, I called the cemetery. "Hello, I'd like to pick out a burial plot." This was the 3rd time I'd made this call. The first time it was for my parents. The second time it was for my child. Now this was my 3rd time calling this number. But this time it was for myself. One by one I had buried all my loved ones with my own hands. And in the end we would finally be reunited. On the 6th day I asked for one final thing. Come with me to one place. It had been 5 years since we graduated from college. This was the first time Su Xinyao and I had returned to our alma mater. I looked up at the massive banyan tree in the center of campus. 7 years ago, this is where you officially confessed your love to me. The leaves rustled softly in the wind. It felt as if the scene before me had rewound back to 7 years ago. I was standing under this tree, And Su Xinyao was standing right in front of me. He spoke with such sincerity. I like you. I will like you forever and ever. I'm afraid even he didn't expect that his forever would turn out to be so short. Su Xinyao's eyes dimmed. Did you bring me here to reminisce about the past? Tomorrow is already the last day. Are you having second thoughts about our divorce now? I pulled my gaze away, knowing this was our final day together. I have no intention of trying to win him back, and I certainly have no regrets. I said calmly, I'm not here to beg you to stay. I'm here to say goodbye, Su Xinyao. I turned to look at him. I truly loved you once, loved you so much. More than my own life. But now I don't love you anymore. And I never will again. Su Xinyao stared right at me, my eyes red and swollen. At this very moment, I finally let go. He should have been happy, but deep down, he didn't feel a shred of relief. He clenched his fists, about to say something. Suddenly, a voice called out from behind us. Is that you two? I scrambled to wipe away my tears. Only then did I see that the person approaching was our old college class monitor. The monitor walked up with a big grin. Oh my, long time no see. I was just about to give you a call to invite you lovely lovebirds to our class reunion. I slowly stepped forward. Su Xinyao instantly pulled himself out of his previous mood. He just assumed I was about to start making a scene again. He was just about to interrupt me, but he saw me smile faintly at the monitor and say, actually, we're on our way to finalize our divorce right now. Su Xinyao was frozen in place and the monitor was stunned. What? You're getting a divorce. You loved him so much you even donated part of your liver to him, didn't you? Why on earth would you want a divorce? I remained silent, not yet speaking. Su Xinyao frowned and interjected, 2 years ago, the person who donated their liver to me was Huaijie. What does that have to do with Gu Yu? Now it was my turn to be stunned. I stared directly at Su Xinyao. In a flash of lightning, everything suddenly made sense, and I couldn't help but laugh. 5 years ago, when he suffered liver failure, I had donated 60% of my liver to save him. And to make sure Su Xinyao wouldn't try to stop me, I lied and told them I was going abroad on a business trip. I left him in Xie Huaijin's care for 3 whole months. Little did I know, Su Xinyao actually thought it was Xie Huaijin who saved him. No wonder, looking back, Su Xinyao started paying such intense attention to Xie Huaijin's health. It all makes sense now why after those 3 months, the atmosphere between them completely shifted. I actually thought that the 2 people I loved most were finally getting along. Turns out Su Xinyao had just mistaken the person. I looked at Su Xinyao's cold, stern face and couldn't help but laugh, my eyes welling up with tears. Suddenly, I found myself dying to know what his face would look like when he finally finds out the truth. It's a pity I'll never get to see it. I said to Su Xinyao, calm as can be, let's get a divorce. We walked out to the school gate. His new boyfriend, Pei Lin, was already waiting there in his car. You said you wanted a divorce, so I brought my ID along right away. He walked over and put his arm around Su Xinyao, saying with a smile, looks like our love really touched Mr. Li. He actually took the initiative to ask for a divorce. See, love really can conquer all obstacles. I let out a soft chuckle. Yeah, love can conquer all obstacles, but people change. And love changes too. Pei Lin's expression darkened. Are you saying he's going to have a change of heart later on? I didn't answer. As we got in the car, Pei Lin looked at my back and suddenly said, how about I drive today? Su Xinyao nodded and sat in the passenger seat. All the way there, I gripped my marriage certificate tightly. Suddenly, the car gave a violent jolt. Pei Lin screamed in terror, what do we do? The brakes failed, and I can't control the speed anymore. I was shocked and dazed for a split second. As we were about to slam into the back of a truck, Su Xinyao jerked the steering wheel hard, swerved hard toward the guardrail. In the final second, he reached out and pulled Pei Lin into his arms. Then there was a deafening crash. My body was thrown forward, completely out of control. When I regained consciousness, I found myself wedged tightly between the seats. Su Xinyao in the front seat kicked the door open with a brutal force. He dragged an unconscious Pei Lin out of the wreckage. He didn't even glance at me before turning to leave. I frantically shouted for him to stop. Save me. Get me out of here. We have to get our divorce settled today. I could clearly feel it. Something heavy was crushing my stomach. The excruciating pain was the only thing keeping me awake. I'm dying, but I refused to be tied to him even in death. I was practically begging him, please. I'm begging you, help me out. But Su Xinyao just let out a cold, mocking laugh. He looked down at me with disdain. Still trying to threaten me with a divorce even now? If you want to live, crawl out yourself. With that, he helped Pei Lin away and walked off without looking back. I let out one final powerless cry. Suddenly, a mouthful of blood surged up my throat. It felt as if all the blood in my body was draining away, gushing endlessly from the corner of my mouth. My ears were suddenly filled with voices. My mother's voice, Ayu. Wake up, honey. You're going to be late, my father's voice, Ayu. Your Uncle Zhang and I caught a massive fish today. I'll braise it for my precious boy tonight. There was even Xie Huaijin's voice, Ayu. Let's head to the corner store together. I'll buy you your favorite chocolate ice cream bar. A faint smile tugged at the corners of my lips. Wait for me. The chaotic noises in my ears slowly faded into silence. I slowly closed my eyes. Rain began to fall from the sky one drop at a time. At the hospital, after Su Xinyao got Peilin settled into her bed, he turned to leave. But Peilin grabbed his hand, complaining, "Didn't you already call the police? Why do you still care whether Gu Yu lives or dies?" As soon as those words fell, he then locked eyes with Su Xinyao, whose gaze was icy and filled with extreme coldness. He immediately said in a weak voice, "I was so scared during the car accident just now. Could you please stay with me?" Su Xinyao pressed her lips together and remained silent for a moment. But eventually she pushed Peilin's hand away and started to walk out. "I'll be back soon." As soon as she opened the door and walked into the lobby, the piercing, shrill wail of an ambulance siren suddenly stabbed into her ears. The patient has lost a massive amount of blood and is in shock. Prepare for a blood transfusion. Su Xinyao's heart skipped a beat. A blood transfusion, really? She immediately denied it in her mind. No, it couldn't be him. I clearly saw that he was just trapped and couldn't move. How could he possibly have lost that much blood? She quickened her pace and headed outside. Just then, a doctor pushed a gurney through the entrance. Another doctor was kneeling on top of the gurney, desperately performing CPR on the injured person. A crowd of medical staff rushed up to them. Su Xinyao couldn't clearly see the person on the gurney. She paused for a second. In that split second, as they brushed past each other, she heard the doctor performing the emergency aid shouting hoarsely, "Why did his heartbeat just stop? Quick switch people, keep going. Give him another dose of adrenaline." Su Xinyao pulled her gaze away and walked toward the hospital entrance. The sky had begun to pour with heavy rain at some point. She stopped in front of the downpour. She took out her phone to message her assistant, telling him to drive over and pick her up. No sooner had she sent the message than her phone began to ring. She answered impatiently, "Just drive over here." But before she could finish, a voice heavy with grief pierced clearly into her ears. "May I ask, are you the wife of Mr. Gu Yu?" Su Xinyao clenched her hand involuntarily. "I am. What is it?" The voice on the other end of the line came through again. "I'm sorry. Mr. Gu Yu has suffered massive blood loss from the car accident. He just passed away. All rescue efforts were unsuccessful." Amidst the relentless heavy rain, the voice on the other end of the phone sounded as if it were whispering right against her ear. Su Xinyao stood there completely frozen. He whipped his head around and began to stride quickly toward the inside. The gurney was being slowly wheeled toward the morgue. "The emergency doctor." A grave voice came through the phone receiver into his ear. He looked at the person lying on the surgical gurney. That body covered in blood. His legs suddenly felt glued to the spot. He couldn't bring himself to take another step. Was that really Gu Yu? How could that possibly be him? Before he left, he had clearly looked him over so carefully. It was just a scratch. How could he possibly be dead? He only wanted to teach Gu Yu a lesson, that's all. How could he have died? Through the phone, the doctor kept calling out, "Hello, are you Mr. Gu Yu's spouse? Please come to the hospital to identify Mr. Gu Yu's remains." Su Xinyao stared unblinkingly at the doctor standing by the gurney. The doctor's lips moved in sync, perfectly matching the voice coming from the receiver. Su Xinyao's mind was reeling, a chaotic roar drowning out everything else. Suddenly, he rushed forward, as if he were trying to verify something. Lifting his hand amidst the doctor's stunned gaze, he pulled back that white sheet. Outside the window, the leaves were thrashing violently in the pouring rain. The fluorescent light in the morgue flickered dizzying and harsh, shifting between a piercing, blinding white and the deep shadows of the night. But he saw it clearly. Lying on the operating table with a face ashen and gray, a man who had lost every shred of life. "If it's not me, then who is it?" Su Xinyao stumbled back, completely stunned. It was Gu Yu. It really was Gu Yu who died. At that moment, his chest felt so tight with pain that he felt like his very breath had stopped. Everything around him seemed to freeze in his vision. Like a slow-motion playback, the chaotic noise of life was amplified 1,000 times, seeping into his ears inch by agonizing inch. He stared intently at the face, and suddenly reached out to grab at his own shoulders. Gu Yu quit the act. "Done playing sick? Are you actually trying to play dead now? Didn't you want a divorce? Get up right now and let's go get it over with." "Divorce me?" The security guards, alerted by the commotion, rushed over and pulled him away. "Miss, please calm down," he shouted at the top of his lungs. "I am perfectly calm. Let go of me." Su Xinyao started walking toward me, but the security guards stood firm, blocking her path. She ordered the doctors to put my body into the freezer. He reached out his hand, but he couldn't even touch a single inch of me, even though I was right in front of him, so incredibly close. It felt like there was an infinite distance between us. A world of difference stood in our way. He could only watch helplessly, as I was sealed away into that cold freezer, unable to do a single thing. The doctor looked at him and let out a sigh. "He has already passed away. Please don't be too heartbroken." Su Xinyao replied coldly, "Heartbroken? I'm not the least bit heartbroken. It's just a pity he didn't live long enough to pay for what he's done." The doctor looked at her face with a long, steady gaze. "Is that so? Then why are you crying?" Su Xinyao froze. She reached up and touched her face, finding it wet and cold. She was crying. That was impossible. How could she possibly be crying for a man like him? She hated me, didn't she? She hated me so much she wanted me to pay for Xie Huaijin's life with my own. Su Xinyao stared blankly at her own hand. The doctor signaled for the security guards to let her go. Miss, we received an emergency call from you, and we rushed to the scene of the car accident. But when we arrived, you weren't there anymore. Su Xinyao's pupils suddenly constricted. She suddenly recalled the way I looked when I begged for her help, and her heart felt like it had been pierced through with pain. She clenched her fingers tightly, but then heard the doctor say calmly, I'm not telling you this to make you blame yourself. Even if you had brought him to the hospital on time back then, he doesn't have much time left. Su Xinyao froze for a second. What do you mean? The doctor let out a heavy sigh. The patient was already in the late stages of stomach cancer. On top of that, he had lost 60% of his liver. He wouldn't have even made it past tomorrow. Su Xinyao's breath hitched sharply. 60% of his liver? A chilling realization slowly settled into his heart. He asked, unable to believe it, when? As if to confirm his worst fears. The doctor replied, 5 years ago. Su Xinyao stumbled backward, stunned. 5 years ago. How could it have been 5 years ago? When he had that liver transplant, he was afraid I'd worry, so he never told me a single word. So back when he was going through that surgery, I wasn't even in the country. I was away on a business trip abroad. When he finally woke up from the operation, the only person by his hospital bed was Xie Huaijin. At first, he had just been polite and reserved with Xie Huaijin, but Xie Huaijin looked absolutely awful. He was constantly passing out from anemia. And then, when Xie Huaijin collapsed in front of him yet again, he finally demanded to know why. And Xie Huaijin told him that it was because he had donated 60% of his own liver to him. He stood there completely paralyzed on the spot. Xie Huaijin just smiled at him and said, if you hadn't asked, I never would have told you. Just think of it as a good person doing a good deed. I don't want you to feel like you owe me anything. As long as I can see you and IU living happily, that's enough for me. A feeling called guilt was carved deeply into his heart at that very moment. From that day on, he started caring for Xie Huaijin. He started watching over his health every single second. He started little by little to take note of all his preferences and keep them in his heart. He thought it was just a way to repay the debt. But once someone starts making their way into your heart, whether it's out of guilt or something else, falling in love becomes so easy. For the past 3 years, every time he touched that surgical scar beneath his ribs, it served as a reminder, a moment of longing for Xie Huaijin, and a moment of growing hatred toward me. But to tell him now that Xie Huaijin had been lying to him from the very beginning, that he had been wrong about everything from the start, a violent stabbing pain tore through Su Xinyao's chest, as if his heart were being slowly sliced apart by cold, icy scissors, leaving every broken fragment dripping with blood. He suddenly turned and strode out, dialing his assistant's number. Look into something for me. Find out exactly who it was that donated their liver to me 5 years ago. His assistant worked fast. Just 1 hour later, the records from the liver transplant surgery were delivered to the hospital. Su Xinyao stared at the paper, at the 2 characters for Gu Yu in the donor column, and he froze completely, rooted to the spot. He spun around and headed straight for the morgue. He shoved the security guard aside and yanked open the freezer unit, but my body was already gone. He glared coldly at the guard and the doctor behind him. Where is he? Where is Gu Yu? The security guard replied. Before he passed, the deceased had already contacted the crematorium. Just a moment ago, workers from the crematorium came and took his body away for cremation. Su Xinyao didn't hesitate. He shoved the assistant aside, opened the car door, and plunged headlong into the torrential rain. The rain hammered down on the car like a waterfall. There were 3 crematoriums in the city, but he knew exactly where I would go. The place where I had personally cremated my parents, and the child we never got to meet. Su Xinyao's eyes were bloodshot. His mind was filled with countless questions and 1,000 uncertainties. He just needed to see that scar under my ribs, that same scar he had on his own body, and everything would become clear. Every question would finally have an answer. His foot pressed harder and harder against the gas pedal. Through the pouring rain, his car was the only one speeding down the road like a madman. He finally reached the crematorium. He burst through the doors, just in time to see the staff member press the cremation button. Su Xinyao lunged forward wildly. No! The staff scrambled to hold him back. They could only force him to stand there and watch. Inside the furnace, the flames roared to life, and it felt as if his heart was being scorched right along with them. So close. It was always just that one split second away. At the hospital, it was the same, just that tiny difference. They had literally brushed past each other. If only he had been just a little bit faster. He could have seen me one last time. Su Xinyao stumbled back, stunned. His assistant finally caught up to him. Gasping for breath, the assistant handed him a flash drive. Mr. Su, I just uncovered something else. 3 years ago, after Mr. Gu received the text from Mr. Z, he actually went to look for him. Su Xinyao froze. What are you talking about? 3 years ago, when he hated me more than anything, I had tried to explain it to him. I told him I had gone to find Xie Huaijin. I told him that Xie Huaijin had never intended to jump. I told him that Xie Huaijin had been lying to him the whole time. But he had watched with his own eyes as Xie Huaijin died right in front of him. How could he have possibly believed me? It was something he saw with his own two eyes. Could that really have been a lie too? 3 years ago, the hotel manager claimed the rooftop surveillance cameras were broken. But I just checked and it turns out the cameras were never broken at all. The assistant glanced over at Su Xinyao. Hesitating, they said, "Besides, the truth is completely different from what we thought." They carefully took out their phone, pulled up a video and handed it to Su Xinyao. "Sister Xinyao, do you want to see it?" Su Xinyao took the phone, her eyes fixed on the pause button on the screen. She knew she should just press play right away, yet he didn't have the courage to press play. What if it really was all just a misunderstanding? If the truth really was exactly how I tried to explain it, what is he supposed to do then? Su Xinyao felt a wave of suffocation tightening in his chest. After a long, agonizing silence, he finally pressed play. In the surveillance footage, Xie Huaijin was standing on the edge of the rooftop railing, looking at me dressed in a suit standing before him. "I'm begging you one last time. Would you just give Su Xinyao up to me?" I stood there in silence for a moment. My voice was so calm, as if saying that if he wanted to call off the engagement, I wouldn't stand in his way or cling to him. Xie Huaijin shouted back. "But he doesn't want you holding him back with your tragic past anymore. He's never going to leave you. The only way this ends is if you are the one to call off the engagement." I gritted my teeth and snapped back. "But aren't you doing the exact same thing by using our history to hold me hostage? You knew full well that she was my girlfriend, the person I loved most in this world. Yet you still went after her, didn't you?" I turned around and started to walk away. "To be honest, I don't believe for a second that you'd actually jump. So if you want to jump, go right ahead." Su Xinyao's grip tightened around his phone. He remembered that back then, when he heard Xie Huaijin was going to jump off the building, he had overheard me say those exact words while he was rushing to the scene. That was the moment his hatred for me began to burn so deep. Those words did indeed come from my own mouth, and they were the final straw that pushed Xie Huaijin to jump. In the end, it was still me who drove Xie Huaijin to his death. Su Xinyao felt a storm of conflicting emotions tearing him apart. He didn't want to watch the scene of Xie Huaijin jumping, so he moved to put the phone away. But in the next second, he saw Xie Huaijin's smug, triumphant expression. On the phone screen, he said, "You guessed right. I never intended to jump. I just wanted to record you saying those words. I just sent this recording to Su Xinyao. I don't need you to call off the engagement anymore. He will definitely never marry you now." Su Xinyao was completely stunned. She stared in disbelief at the video, watching Xie Huaijin's smug expression. He didn't actually want to jump. That message was something he sent to him on purpose. The very second that recording was sent in the video, he had called Xie Huaijin. He must have been incredibly anxious at that moment. Yet Xie Huaijin just held up the phone like he was showing off a trophy. He must be on his way here right now, right? You say he heard those words. "I'm pretending to be forced by you to jump off this building. Do you think he'll hate you for the rest of his life?" Her hands clenched tightly. "Do you really think he's stupid enough to believe such a pathetic lie?" Xie Huaijin stood up. "That's why I have to make it look even more real." He stood right on the edge of the railing. "I've already had people set up a cushion down below. Even if he falls, he'll only get hurt. Getting a little injured to win over Su Xinyao. That's a bargain." Su Xingyao's breath hitched. She felt the blood in her veins go cold, slowly freezing over. She suddenly realized what the cushion Xie Huaijin was talking about actually meant. It was those tarps. 3 years ago on the day of their wedding, when she went to the hotel, she saw those inexplicable 18-story high sunshade tarps being installed downstairs. She noticed they were against safety regulations, so she contacted the hotel manager and had them taken down on the spot. Su Xinyao's mouth fell open in total shock. Her mind went completely blank. The video kept playing. Obviously, I knew it too. The 18-story sunshade tarp installed downstairs had just been torn down. On the 17th floor, only the very top layer remained. Xie Huaijin must have thought the 18th floor was still there. Watching Xie Huaijin look like he was about to fall backward, I hurriedly shouted, "The floor below was already taken down." Don't jump before I could finish my sentence. The door to the rooftop. The door was kicked open with a loud bang. Su Xinyao rushed in. Xie Huaijin stumbled backward and fell 31 stories down right before his eyes. Su Xinyao stared blankly at the screen. Tears couldn't help but fall dripping onto the monitor one by one. He saw me scream in terror. I scrambled toward the edge of the railing, but he just shoved me away, shouting, "Get lost!" My eyes red. I shook my head. He had just told me he wouldn't jump. He said it was all just an act. Trust me, just trust me this one time. But on the video, he only stared at me with bloodshot eyes. "Gu Yu, I will never let you go." At that moment, the surveillance footage cut to black. The assistant carefully set the phone down. "I've checked into it. That surveillance footage from back then." Xie Huaijin struck a deal with the hotel manager. And that's why they lied and said it was broken. Later on, after the manager was fired, the footage was finally recovered. But he trailed off, falling into a heavy silence. Back then, when I tried to explain everything to Su Xinyao, he didn't believe me. Now that he's dead, knowing the truth doesn't change anything anymore. Su Xinyao sat motionless on the bench. What kind of deal did Xie Huaijin make with the manager? The assistant hesitated for a moment before saying, "That kind of trade." Su Xinyao pressed his lips into a tight line. He slowly covered his eyes with his hands. The surging emotions in his heart seemed to drown him in an instant. He suddenly remembered 3 years ago, when his hands were tightly wrapped around my throat, saying all those heartless, cruel things to me. He wanted to make Xie Huaijin suffer as much as he could before dying, so he made sure I would taste that same bitterness too. That's why the day I left, I chased after his car running the whole way. He saw me. He saw me get hit by that car. He saw the abnormal amount of blood pooling beneath me, but he didn't stop. He just watched coldly as my child vanished into the chaos of this farce. He really did succeed. He succeeded in making me live through these past 3 years wishing I were dead. Su Xinyao covered her eyes tightly, but tears still leaked out bit by bit between her fingers. Outside, the cold rain fell in a steady drizzle. I don't know how much time had passed when the staff member brought out the urn. Su Xinyao reached out to take it, but the staff member blocked her, saying, "I'm sorry." Before Mr. Guyu passed away, he left specific instructions. His ashes are to be buried secretly by someone, and he forbid anyone from knowing where. Su Xinyao clenched her fingers. "Since when?" The staff member replied, 3 days ago. That was the day we came back from visiting our parents' graves. From that day on, I had already begun preparing for my own funeral. Yet she had been completely oblivious to it all. In that instant, Su Xinyao's heart ached so intensely she couldn't catch her breath. She stammered, "I am his wife. Is that not enough?" The staff member gave her a long look. "You're his wife. I'm sorry, that won't do. But before he passed, he asked me to pass a message on to you. Don't go to his grave to cry. It might dirty his path to reincarnation." Su Xinyao stumbled back stunned. She watched helplessly as the staff member took me away from her life piece by piece. The relentless downpour outside seemed as if it would never end. Her phone kept buzzing with messages one after another, but Su Xinyao didn't pick up a single one. Soaked to the bone by the rain, she returned to the home that was once ours. The home he had once been most unwilling to admit was ours. He and I once made a promise, a place where we vowed to stay together for a lifetime. Yet it feels like we never even spent a single day together. 3 years ago, he left, leaving me behind to wait for him for 3 long, endless years. Now he's back, but I am no longer here. He walks into the bedroom. It's so tidy inside. Not a single thing has changed since the day I left. Only that box was left lying carelessly on the floor. It was completely empty. Su Xinyao picked up the box, but suddenly noticed something. Beneath it, there was actually a hidden compartment. He opened it, and a letter lay there resting quietly inside. To the future Su Xinyao. Su Xinyao's pupils dilated in shock. That was 7 years ago. Back then, he and I promised to write letters to each other. He still remembered the promise we made to our future selves. I remember back then I smiled at him and said, "I hope that when we open these letters next time, you'll still be by my side." At that time, he smiled and leaned into my arms, saying, "I will never ever leave you." But he broke his promise. A sharp, unbearable pain pierced Su Xinyao's chest. He looked at the bold, vigorous handwriting that belonged to him and opened the letter. The very first word felt like a dagger, driving itself deep into his heart. To the future Su Xinyao, I like you so much. You confessed to me today, and I'm just so happy. But at the same time, I'm so scared. I'm afraid that your feelings for me will be fleeting. I'm afraid that before I even get the chance to cherish your love, it will have already vanished. You know, I dream of you loving me just as much as I love you. Su Xinyao, will our future selves still be together? Will you even get the chance to read this letter? And if you do, will you still remember me? Will there be someone else bringing you flowers? Someone else being good to you? Someone else stealing a kiss while you're busy with your research? Will there be anyone else who loves you as much as I do? To the future Su Xinyao, could you please try to love me just a little bit more? I will love you more than anyone else, and anything else in this world. But if you ever break my heart, I will leave too. I'll go somewhere far, far away. I'll make sure you can never find me again. Couldn't you have loved me just a little bit more? Just a little bit. Su Xinyao grips the document tightly. Her heart aches so much she can barely breathe. Why couldn't he have trusted me even a little more? Why does it always take losing someone to finally understand? He suddenly remembers the banyan tree at the school. I looked right at him and said those 4 words, "I don't love you anymore." I was clearly in so much pain. So why couldn't he see it? Su Xinyao drives to the cemetery. In the pitch-black, rain-swept night, he uses the faint beam of a flashlight, checking every single headstone one by one. It's not here. None of them are here. His heart begins to sink. Suddenly, he freezes in his tracks. He sees a bouquet of white daisies in front of my parents' grave. The daisies are still fresh despite the pouring rain. They couldn't have been placed there more than an hour ago. Su Xinyao's breath hitches sharply in his throat. My parents have no other family left. The only kin they had was me. Su Xinyao stares intently at those white daisies. He swings the flashlight wildly in every direction. He screams out desperately, "Guyu! You're not dead, are you? You're lying to me, aren't you? You're still alive, right? You could never really forgive me, could you? Can't you just let me see you one last time? Just one look. Just let me know you're still alive." He searches the cemetery, lost and frantic. Suddenly, his foot brushes against something. He looks down into the muddy rain-filled ground, lying there quietly as a ring. His gaze froze. Slowly, he picked up my wedding ring. On the inside, he had carved the inscription himself. Su Xinyao will love Guyu forever. Su Xinyao's eyes suddenly turned red. He lowered his head, anxiously searching the ground for his own ring. He remembered it being right around here. He remembered he had thrown it somewhere in this area. But why can't he find him? Why can't I find that ring? And why is he nowhere to be found? Why? Su Xinyao collapsed to his knees, completely drained of strength. Traces of water streamed endlessly from the corners of his eyes. By now he couldn't tell if it was the pouring rain or his own tears. He whispered in a hoarse, broken voice, "I'm begging you. Let me see you one last time." Amidst the heavy curtain of rain, he thought he heard a faint sigh. Su Xinyao's breath hitched in his chest. He stiffened, then slowly raised his head. He heard familiar footsteps approaching from behind. Su Xinyao gripped the ring tightly in his hand. As those footsteps drew closer and closer, he squeezed his eyes shut. Scalding tears slowly traced paths down his face. But no, it wasn't him. It wasn't Guyu. Heilin held an umbrella and stopped behind him. He slowly crouched down by his side. Su Xinyao, stop looking. I was the one who left those flowers. I just heard the news of his passing. I couldn't find you, but I knew you would definitely come here to look for him. He tossed the umbrella aside, letting the torrential rain soak them both completely. He wrapped his arms around Su Xinyao from behind, feeling his sorrow, feeling his utter despair. He's dead, he's already dead. Don't I deserve to be by your side? Didn't you say you'd marry me once everything with him was over? I have my identification with me. Let's go get married as soon as the sun comes up, all right? Su Xinyao felt as if his heart had been pierced in that very instant. Let's go get married as soon as the sun comes up, all right? He had once said those same words to him. He pushed Palin away and stared into his face. This face that looked 70% like Xie Huaijin. In the past, in his heart, this person was meant to be the place where he could make amends and project all his love and debts. But at this moment, that face felt like a sharp dagger, stabbing viciously into his heart, reminding him over and over again in a bloody, brutal way. Who exactly turned everything into the mess it is now? It was him. It was all his own doing. He called out his name, Palin. Palin shook his head frantically. I don't want to hear it. If you're going to break up with me, I don't want to listen. You promised you would marry me. Please don't say anything. Don't be so cruel to me. Please, he had a sinking premonition that if Su Xinyao said what was on his mind, he would never be able to keep Su Xinyao by his side again. Su Xinyao looked at him, remaining silent for a very, very long time. He slowly stood up and began to walk forward. Palin was stunned, but quickly hurried to follow him. He walked slowly, then stopped in front of a tombstone. Palin took just one look at the tombstone and instantly froze in his tracks. He saw the black and white photograph on the headstone. It looked almost exactly like him. Under his horrified gaze, Su Xinyao spoke slowly. His name is Xie Huaijin. He was the man I once loved. Palin stared at him blankly, as if everything had suddenly clicked into place. He pushed Su Xinyao away. So you were just using me as a replacement? So everything you said to me was a lie? You said you had never loved anyone else. You said you only ever loved me. And here I was, acting like an idiot trying to compete with Guyu, only to find out you were playing me the whole time. Then why tell me now? Why couldn't you have just lied to me for the rest of my life? Su Xinyao looked at him calmly. Because it's meaningless now. Everything from the past has completely vanished along with Guyu's departure. Palin suddenly started laughing, though it felt completely pointless. The guy is dead already. Stop acting like you're heartbroken. Why didn't you say it was pointless when he was actually alive? You're just a hypocrite, so disgusting with your fake devotion. Su Xinyao lowered her gaze, saying nothing. She turned and walked away. Palin shouted after her. You're just as fake as Guyu. Su Xinyao pursed her lips, turned back, and shot him a cold, sharp look. Shut up. Palin looked at him and said, Shut up. Fine, you want me to shut up. I'll shut up. But then you'll never, ever know the truth about him, like the day before the accident. What he came to tell me. Su Xinyao stared at her, stunned. He came to see you. Palin looked at him with a vindictive sneer. That's right. He came to tell me he was dying. He said you had a lot of bad habits. You don't like doing chores and you can't stand it when things get too noisy. You're gentle and thoughtful and you know how to laugh and cry. But once the feelings are gone, you become unreliable and heartless. And when you're angry, you just give people the silent treatment. You're so annoying and so cruel. Su Xinyao. Before Ming Jingchun's eyes, a memory surfaced of when they first moved in together. I had cooked a table full of dishes. I was smiling, waiting for him to come home. Su Xinyao, no matter where you go, whenever you come home, I will always be waiting for you. But he took that person who promised to always wait for him to come home, and he lost her forever. He would never see me again. Palin watched his pained expression. Her own heart ached even more than his. Yet with a twisted sense of relief, she said, he even said he wished us a happy marriage. Su Xinyao, he loved you so much. Yet you were the one who got him killed. Ha ha ha! Su Xinyao acted as if she'd been struck by a dagger to the heart. She lunged forward, grabbing Palin by the wrist. Shut up! Paylin laughed, her eyes rimmed with angry red. Why should I shut up? There's something you still don't know, isn't there? That day the brakes didn't actually fail. It was me. I did it on purpose. I just wanted him to know that even though he loved you that much, you never loved him at all. You played your part so perfectly. Do you know what the last thing he heard before he died was? It was you saying, if you want to live, crawl out yourself. Su Xinyao staggered back a step. She looked at Paylin's crazed face but couldn't say a single word in her defense. That's right, he was the one who got him killed. But now saying all these things, what point is there even left? He let go of her hand and turned to walk away. Paylin shouted at his back, Su Xinyao, you're going to live the rest of your life in regret. Su Xinyao didn't even stop. Beneath the curtain of pouring rain, Paylin watched his retreating figure and collapsed onto her knees in total defeat. She whispered powerlessly, Su Xinyao, don't go. But no one heard her. The rain slowly began to let up. Su Xinyao walked quietly through the rain. All he could see ahead was a vast white mist of water. He wandered aimlessly, battered by the icy rain-soaked wind, looking absolutely miserable and disheveled. There were sounds of cars slamming on their brakes, and it felt like someone was leaning out of a window to yell at him. But he didn't hear a single thing. He didn't know how long he had been walking, as the night seemed to bleed into day. Suddenly, he heard his assistant's voice shrilling through the air. Xingyao Peilin set fire to the place where you kept all your things. Su Xinyao froze in his tracks. His eyes finally began to focus again. He sprinted toward the house. The raging inferno stood out against the rain like a massive, hungry beast, determined to destroy every last trace of her. Paylin was being held back by the police, but she was still screaming something wildly. Su Xinyao didn't hear a single word of it. He just broke through the police line with a violent surge of strength, and under the shocked and horrified gazes of everyone there, he charged straight into the flames. No, he's already lost me, he thought. He cannot lose everything else that belongs to me too. The fire scorched his clothes and burned into his skin. He gathered my clothes and every single one of my belongings into his arms. Through his blurry, stinging vision, he suddenly remembered the promise he made to me so long ago. Then I'll just buy a double burial plot, he had said. You wait for me down there, and once I finish handling everything up here, I'll come and keep you company. This time he won't break his promise again. As long as I wait for him below, just keep waiting. He'll be able to join me. I've always been so lonely. No parents, no friends. Just living in this world all by myself. But from here on out, I won't be alone anymore. He's going to keep me company. He'll stay with me forever. Su Xinyao clutched the ring tightly in her palm. The ring where he had personally carved always loved me. A searing, burning pain gnawed at her entire body. She slowly closed her eyes. In a daze, it felt as if every sound around her simply vanished. The shouts of the firefighters, the cries of her assistant, and even Paylin's voice had all faded away. Everything was so quiet. It was as if nothing left in this world existed. Suddenly, a piercing ringing filled her ears. Her body felt like it was in an elevator plummeting at top speed. Through the dizzying chaos, it jolted to a sudden stop. She snapped her eyes open. Loud, chaotic noises flooded her ears. Shouting and music all mixed together. Su Xinyao looked up dazed, taking in her surroundings. To her shock, she realized she was standing under the banyan tree on campus. A group of students surrounded her, watching her like it was some kind of show. What is going on? Why is she here? Before Su Xinyao could gather her thoughts, she suddenly heard a voice she knew all too well. Su Xinyao! She bolted forward to look. And then she saw me. I was standing right in front of her, alive and breathing. I was wearing the white shirt he gave me back in college, looking so youthful, so healthy. Standing there completely whole in front of her. Is this a dream? This has to be a dream, right? If it is a dream, she prayed to never wake up again. Su Xingyao's vision instantly blurred with tears. She hurried over to where I stood, longing to throw herself into my arms. But just as she reached out, she heard me say, Su Xinyao, I can't accept your confession. Su Xinyao froze. Confession? She looked at my face, studying every single detail. In that last meeting we had, I looked much younger, healthier, as if I had never been tormented by any illness. Suddenly, a bizarre thought struck her. She turned to look at the familiar classmates around her, the fresh flower petals falling, and the bouquet of white roses in her hands. This was exactly the day during our junior year when she confessed to me. Su Xinyao was completely paralyzed where she stood. And then an overwhelming wave of euphoria rushed over her. There are two hardest things in life. The first is feeling helpless about your own future. The second thing is the inability to change what happened in the past. But it seemed the heavens really were favoring her. They had let her return to the past, giving her another chance to change everything. She lunged forward and threw herself into my arms, feeling my warm body temperature. Over and over again, she kept calling out, Gu Yu, Gu Yu. Having endured the agony of losing me, she felt as if she had finally returned to the world of the living. To have me back, it felt like heaven on earth. She buried her face deeply into my chest, and tears streamed down her cheeks. I was stunned. I just rejected you. Su Xinyao looked up, finally registering what I had just said. She smiled at me, stopped joking around. I'll be even better to you from now on, okay? She wasn't worried at all that I didn't love her back. She knew deep down exactly how much I loved her. That was why 3 years ago, only then would he use his feelings to hurt me time and time again. But now he won't do that anymore. Perhaps heaven gave him a chance at a new life, just so he could come back and make it up to me. This time, no matter what happens, he will never let go. He looked at me with a smile. But I said calmly, I'm not joking with you. My expression was dead serious. Su Xinyao froze in place. Why? I frowned, looking at him. I don't need a reason to reject your confession. Do you really need a reason? Su Xinyao was stunned. He suddenly recalled the moment he asked me for a divorce. I had said those exact same in different words to him back then. Does a divorce need a reason? Now that those words were being thrown right back at him, he finally understood how deeply they could hurt. It felt like a knife was twisting into his heart over and over again. Su Xinyao's fingertips were trembling with pain. I can change. Whatever you're unhappy with, I can change it all. He tried to smile, but it looked even more painful than crying. Can you please give me one more chance? He truly didn't want to experience it again. The feeling of losing me. It was a pain worse than death. My gaze flickered slightly. Su Xinyao thought I was having a change of heart. He coaxed me gently. You everything I did wrong in the past. I can make up for it all. Please just don't leave me, okay? I stayed silent for a moment and let out a long, heavy sigh. I really didn't want to tell you this, but since you insist on asking, I'll tell you. Su Xinyao, there isn't some complicated reason why I'm rejecting you. It's simply because I don't love you anymore. Su Xinyao stood frozen on the spot staring at me. My expression remained indifferent. Besides, there's someone else I like now. Please don't pester me anymore. Su Xinyao stammered, Who? Who is the person you like? I was silent for a brief moment, then slowly looked past him. Su Xinyao stiffly turned his head around and saw someone standing outside the crowd. He recognized her. It was Xie Huaijin. His face changed in an instant. The next moment he watched as I walked right past him and stopped beside Xie Huaijin. Junior, I like you. Junior, I like you. Can we be together? No one expected a confession to turn out like this. Under the ancient banyan tree on this clear day, Xie Huaijin looked up from her documents. Her gaze landed on my face. There was no love in my eyes, yet I was telling her I liked her. Xie Huaijin slowly looked behind me, and in an instant she understood. Under my nervous gaze, she slowly nodded and said, Sure. The moment those two words were spoken, the atmosphere seemed to ignite instantly, erupting into a wave of gasps and whispers. Guyu, what are you thinking? We've all seen how things have been with you and Su Xinyao for the past 3 years. How can you suddenly say you don't like her? Yeah, didn't you tell me just yesterday that if Su Xinyao confessed to you, you would definitely say yes? Bai Shengsheng's skeptical questions reached my ears. I just lowered my head, tuning out all the noise. I took Xie Huaijin's hand and walked over to Su Xinyao. This is the reason why I can't be with you. The sight of our hands tightly locked under the sunlight was an absolute eyesore for Su Xinyao. She took a deep breath, holding back again and again. She grabbed my arm, her eyes bloodshot. Why her? You clearly know. Tell me you're doing this just to get back at me, right? Whatever I did wrong, just tell me and I'll change. If there's something I did to make you angry, I'll do whatever it takes to make it up to you. But this isn't funny. This joke, it's not funny at all. I pushed his hand away, my expression cold and indifferent. I looked straight into Su Xinyao's eyes and said calmly, This isn't a joke. You didn't do anything wrong. It's just that you confessed your feelings too late. Because just this morning I fell in love with Xie Huaijin at first sight. If you had confessed yesterday, you definitely would have succeeded. But Su Xinyao, what's missed is missed. There's no chance for a do-over. Su Xinyao shook her head, insisting, As long as you give me a chance, there can be. My tone turned ice cold. And why on earth should I give you one? Su Xinyao froze. I took Xie Huaijin's hand and started walking away. Instinctively, he started to chase after us. I sensed it and said, If you keep following us, it'll only make me despise you even more. Su Xinyao's footsteps came to a jarring halt. She could only watch helplessly as I held Xie Huaijin's hand, walking further and further out of her sight. Confused, she clenched her fingers tight. Why? Why has everything that happened in the past changed? Why is it all so different? Where did things go wrong? Once we reached the corner, I let go of Xie Huaijin's hand. Xie Huaijin's skin was incredibly fair. Just by letting go, a red mark had already appeared on her wrist. I quickly apologized. I'm so sorry, Junior. Xie Huaijin glanced at her wrist, then looked at me calmly. Your eyes say you still love him. I was taken aback, then looked at the book in her hand. It was a psychology textbook. Xie Huaijin watched me quietly, the light in her eyes seeming to pierce right through my heart. You love him, yet you're pushing him away. Why? My fingertips tightened suddenly. I said in a low voice, If you knew that someone was bound to hurt you in the future, wouldn't you stay away from them even if you still liked them? Xie Huaijin raised an eyebrow. And how could you possibly know for sure that he'd hurt you? I gave a bitter smile. I looked down at my own palm. Back when the car accident happened, there had been a scar that went straight through my hand. But right now, it was as clean and unblemished as if it had never happened. At this point in time, it really hasn't happened yet. Just like how Su Xinyao has never hurt me, and I've never gone through those soul-crushing events. But I have lived through them. Even if I've been reborn, those memories are things I truly and painfully experienced. In that split second when I closed my eyes, I thought I was going to die with nothing but regrets. But I never expected that heaven would actually give me a second chance. Reborn exactly on the day Su Xinyao confessed to me. I wasn't lying. If Su Xinyao had confessed one day earlier, or even just 1 minute earlier, I would have accepted her then and there. But of all the times it had to happen right as I was reborn. Isn't that ironic? The very first second I locked eyes with her, I knew that Su Xinyao had been reborn too. The woman who hurt me the most in my past life was now standing there talking about making things up to me, talking about the past and how we couldn't just move on. But everything I went through, I could never just move on from that. To say I don't hold a grudge would be a total lie. But then again, I don't really want to spend my time on revenge either. In my past life, I wasted way too much time on Su Xinyao. This time, I just want to live for myself. I never intended to hurt Su Xinyao, but these are things she has to experience too. If I had to go through that kind of pain, then why shouldn't she? I closed my eyes for a moment and looked at Xie Huaijin, feeling an extra wave of guilt. I never wanted to drag an innocent person into this, but since she's already involved, there's no turning back now. I know you've been looking for that original research paper, and I happen to know exactly where it is. Xie Huaijin was somewhat of a campus celebrity, a high and mighty goddess, an academic genius who was also known as a money-scattering fairy, wealthy and incredibly generous. Back then, the massive reward offered to find that thesis caused such a huge uproar. Nearly the entire campus, students and teachers alike, were searching for it. It wasn't until a month later that it was finally found. Xie Huaijin glanced at me indifferently. The conditions? I explained, Su Xinyao will definitely come looking for me again. I want you to pretend to be my girlfriend, Xie Huaijin. She raised an eyebrow. Why me? I remained silent for a moment. It has to be you. Because Su Xinyao is fine with me being with anyone else, except for Xie Huaijin. Xie Huaijin might not even know who Su Xinyao is, but I've watched him see her countless times. She's his half-sister, or to be more precise, his half-sister from the same mother but a different father. Years ago, Su Xinyao's father was abusive. His mother couldn't take the humiliation anymore. She left him, got a divorce, and remarried someone else. Later, Su's father passed away. Su Xinyao was only 7 years old at the time. I went with him to find his mother. I watched as the servants threw him out of the house. They cursed at him, calling him a beggar. It was pouring rain that day. The freezing rain soaked Su Xinyao right to the bone. He stood there in the yard looking so wretched and pathetic. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, he could see the warm, cozy interior of the house. His mother was holding another child in her arms. She was telling her, "You are mommy's most precious treasure. My only treasure." That was the first time I saw Su Xinyao cry. His eyes were red. He stared at the heartwarming scene inside the villa wide-eyed, but he was completely helpless. That's why later on, he insisted on competing with Xie Huaijin for everything. Even though Xie Huaijin had no idea who he was, every competition she entered, he would desperately fight to take first place. In his eyes, as long as he stood on the podium higher than Xie Huaijin, maybe his mother would finally notice him. But his mother never spared him even a single glance. Perhaps she had forgotten he even existed a long time ago. Setting aside the awards, in front of Xie Huaijin, he would always be the loser. Always the loser. A loser that no one knew about. That's why the moment I confessed my feelings to Xie Huaijin, Su Xinyao reacted so intensely. It was as if everything beautiful in this world was destined to be taken away by Xie Huaijin. Mother was mine and she was also Su Xinyao's. He searched for me in a daze for the entire day, but he couldn't find where I had gone. By the time he walked almost as if possessed to the apartment, where we had agreed to live together, and saw the lights were still on, his eyes trembled. He immediately rushed up. He called out my name in excitement. Guyu pushed the door open, only to see the place in complete disarray. I was directing the movers, as they hauled everything away piece by piece. Don't want any of these. Please just throw it all in the dumpster. Su Xinyao froze. Throw it away. He watched as the couple's items we had bought together were being tossed out one by one. He pressed his lips into a thin line and walked over to my side. You hate me that much? I shrugged. It's not hate, but since the feelings are gone, it's better to make a clean break. He gritted his teeth and asked why. Guyu, tell me what happened, please, can't you? Everything was fine just yesterday, wasn't it? Why is it suddenly like this? Did Xie Huaijin threaten you? Did the Chao family threaten you? I let out a sigh. Looking straight into Su Xinyao's eyes, I said, they didn't do anything to me. I'm just tired of the life I had with you. It's pointless, Su Xinyao hissed. Then tell me what would make it pointful for you. I can do anything for you. I laughed. But I don't want that. I shook my head. When you're the one who's wrong, everything you do is wrong. he demanded in a rage. And is Chao Roxy really the right person for you? How much do you even know about him? I looked at him with a smile. If you truly love someone, you don't need to know everything about them. You know that better than anyone, don't you? Su Xinyao froze in his tracks. It had been such a long time since he'd seen me smile like this. For a split second, he was completely dazed. Truly dazed. He could vaguely remember that back then I was someone who loved to smile. Every time we went on a date, I would smile and hold his hand. Every time he came home, he would see that I had prepared a table full of food, waiting for him to come home with a smile on my face. Back then, whenever he saw me smile, it was as if he could overcome any hardship, no matter how great. But later, after Xie Huaijin died, my smile started to feel like an eyesore to him. Every time he saw me smile, he would always wonder how I could still bring myself to do it. After all, Xie Huaijin had died right in front of my eyes. That's why he deliberately said those hurtful things. Those 3 years of divorce. It wasn't that we couldn't get a divorce, but at the very last step, he would always hold back because he hadn't finished watching me suffer yet. He just wanted to slowly torture me to make sure I could never smile like that again. And in the end, he succeeded. When we met again, I finally couldn't smile like that anymore. My smiles were mixed with bitterness, helplessness, and pain. And until the day I died, I never smiled that way again. At this moment, it felt as if Su Xinyao had been punched square in the face. For the first time in his life, he felt a heartache so indescribable. He couldn't take it. He stumbled backward a step. He covered his eyes and slumped heavily against the wall behind him. Don't smile like that anymore. Please don't look at me and smile like that. I'm begging you. The smile on my lips slowly faded away. A sour, aching sensation seemed to travel from Su Xinyao's heart, spreading all the way to my chest. Letting go of the past is like pulling up a tree with deep, stubborn roots. It hurts, but eventually it will all pass. I cannot remain trapped in the past forever. And as for Su Xinyao's joys or sorrows, I no longer wish to care. I watched the movers load everything onto the truck, and then I followed them downstairs. Su Xinyao wanted to chase after me, but then he saw Lu Dengxiao walk up to Chao Roxy and take her hand. Let's head toward the direction he was pampering us in. He paused in his tracks as we walked away. Watching us walk side by side moving forward, we slowly disappeared into the darkness beneath the traffic lights, just like the day my mother left all those years ago, leaving him standing there all by himself. I returned to the apartment I was renting. I had just unlocked my phone when a call came in. It was Xie Huaijin. I stared at the name on the screen, feeling a bit stunned. After a moment, I finally answered. The very first second the call connected, Xie Huaijin's anxious voice came through. Gu Yu, I heard you turned down Su Xinyao. Did he do something to you? I paused. As hateful as Xie Huaijin was in my past life, in this life he hasn't done anything yet. Just as I was about to speak, I heard him add with a laugh, Why don't you give me Su Xinyao's contact info? I'll make sure to give him a piece of my mind for you. I froze instantly. I was so angry I let out a dry, hollow laugh. Not because of Xie Huaijin, but because of myself. Xie Huaijin was acting so suspicious, yet in my past life I hadn't noticed a thing. I really did treat him like my best friend. Thinking back now, Xie Huaijin must have already been into Su Xinyao back then. It's just that in my past life, Su Xinyao's attention was entirely on me, and I never picked up on any of Xie Huaijin's hints. I never let the two of them meet. But now, I sent Su Xinyao's contact information directly to him. Sure, go ahead, give him a piece of your mind. Since Xie Huaijin likes Su Xinyao so much, I don't mind helping them get together. On the other side, Su Xinyao was sitting in her empty apartment. Suddenly, her phone chimed with a message, Hello, I'm Gu Yu's best friend, Xie Huaijin. A flicker of interest crossed her eyes. His gaze flickered. After being reborn, this was the first time he had ever seen anything related to Xie Huaijin. In his past life, Xie Huaijin didn't have his contact information at all. Bing Jingchun called him directly. Where did you get my number? Xie Huaijin explained. Gu Yu gave it to me. Hearing this, Su Xinyao gripped his phone tightly, being with Chao Roxy, giving his contact info to Xie Huaijin. An unbelievable thought surfaced in his mind. Could it be that Gu Yu was reborn too? Did he also come back to life? Is that why this lifetime is so different, so heartless? Is it because he hates me, isn't it? Su Xinyao bit his lip. Xie Huaijin was still talking on the other end. Yu said he never liked you at all. Besides, he's doing great with Chao Roxy right now. Why don't you consider liking someone else? The words he said were like hidden thorns. Su Xinyao cut him off directly, saying coldly, Impossible. Xie Huaijin, it will never happen between us, not in this lifetime. And don't ever show up in front of me again. After saying that he didn't wait for Xie Huaijin to reply, he hung up the phone immediately. He tried to call me back, but found that all his contact methods had been blocked. Su Xinyao took a deep breath and slowly tightened his grip on his phone. His thoughts were in complete chaos. If he was also reborn, how would he face me? He pushed me to that point. I must hate him. Yet letting go is something he absolutely couldn't do. But if Gu Yu was reborn, and all of that was just to get revenge on him, then does that mean he doesn't actually like Chao Roxy? Is there still a chance to make amends? And a chance for us to be together again? The next day, I ran into Su Xinyao the moment I got to school. I froze in surprise. I brushed past him and kept walking. But Su Xinyao grabbed my wrist firmly. She asked, What are you so afraid of? I looked her straight in the eye and replied, "Why would I be afraid?" Su Xinyao stared intensely at my face. "Then why did you walk around me? Why did you confess your feelings to Chao Roxy? Why did you introduce Xie Huaijin to me? You've been pushing me away step by step. What exactly are you trying to run from?" My breath hitched for a brief second. Then I said coldly, "Is there something wrong with avoiding someone I don't like?" Su Xinyao's expression darkened. "You don't like me, I don't believe you." Before I could even react, she was caught off guard. Su Xinyao suddenly stood on her tiptoes. She pressed her lips firmly against mine. The crisp, fresh scent of pine filled my senses. It slowly seeped into my heart and soul. My breath hitched sharply. I shoved her away violently. "What do you think you're doing?" Su Xinyao looked at my burning red ears and smirked. "If you don't like me, then why are you blushing?" I gave her a detached look. "Does blushing mean I like you? If that's the case, then I must really love Chao Roxy. I blush every single time I kiss her." Su Xinyao's face plummeted instantly. "Don't use her to try and get a rise out of me." I looked at her with a bitter laugh. "Get a rise out of you? You think I'm trying to provoke you? Why would I even bother?" Su Xinyao gritted her teeth. "Because of those 3 years. It's because of those 3 years that you hate me, isn't it? And because of Xie Huaijin you hate me, right? You've been reborn too, haven't you?" My heart skipped a beat. I slowly clenched my fists. "What 3 years? What are you even talking about?" Su Xinyao grabbed my shoulders. She forced me to look at her. "You know exactly what I mean. You came back from 7 years in the future, didn't you?" I remained completely calm. 7 years in the future, Su Xinyao. Are you having a fever or just talking nonsense? I turned my eyes away and swatted her hands off me. I said with indifference, "Su Xinyao, 7 years later? Are you running a fever and talking nonsense?" I just pushed his hand away with cold eyes. If I really had to be reborn just to finally stop loving you, then man, how big of an idiot was I back then? Su Xinyao's lips trembled slightly. I cut him off. "Su Xinyao, the more you keep hounding me like this, the more I just find you pathetic." Su Xinyao took a deep breath, trying to swallow the bitterness welling up inside, but his voice still came out raspy and broken. "Then what if I told you I love you? What if I said I love you? What if I told you I can't even go on living without you? Would you still be this heartless?" He was completely out of options. I was being so cold-blooded, so utterly heartless. It felt as if I was truly trying to sever every last tie between us, as if there was no way in hell I would ever turn back to look at him. Other than begging like a pathetic coward, what else could he do? My heart gave a tiny, sharp twinge for a split second, but I told him I don't love you anymore. "Su Xinyao, if you actually love me, then please just stay away from me. Stay out of my life for good. We're nothing but history now." Su Xinyao refused to give up pressing further. "Are we really history? What about our child? Is that in the past too?" He knew that bringing up the child would surely strike a nerve. If I showed even the slightest hint of pain, if I gave even the smallest reaction, he'd be certain that I had been reborn. He'd be convinced that I was only acting this cold because I was still angry at him. He'd be convinced that I must still love him. But as he stared intensely into my eyes, he found not a single ripple of emotion. I just looked at him with complete indifference. "What child?" Su Xinyao looked as if all the strength had been drained from him, stumbling back a step in disbelief. I sighed, feeling helpless. Sometimes when you don't love someone anymore, there really isn't a need for many reasons. "Su Xinyao, if you truly loved me as much as you claimed, I'm begging you, just set me free, will you?" Su Xinyao stared right at me, pleading. He suddenly remembered a long time ago, in the frozen, snow-covered landscape of the Antarctic. He had received countless calls from me. The first time I said, "I'm begging you, just believe me once, okay? No, I really didn't kill Huaiji." Later I said, "I'm begging you to forgive me. Please don't divorce me. Just come back and see me, please." Every single time I begged him, I was really just begging him to love me. Now I am begging him to let me go. Su Xinyao kept his eyes locked on me. A chill deep inside his soul slowly began to spread through his veins. Amidst the icy, sharp pain in his chest, he spoke, almost losing control. "And what if I don't? What if I refuse? What if I absolutely refuse to let go?" My gaze slowly turned ice cold. "Then I will only despise you even more." After I finished, I pushed Su Xinyao aside and walked away. I didn't stop until I reached the corner. I let out a long breath. I opened my palm. My fingernails had dug into my skin, leaving my hand a bloody mess. That child is still a wound in my heart I cannot bear to touch. But Su Xinyao is also a past I never want to remember. I composed myself, preparing to head to class. But when I turned around, I saw Chao Roxy standing right behind me. She raised an eyebrow and looked at me. "You really are a complex person. Even I can't quite tell anymore. Do you actually love him or do you hate him?" I was silent for a moment before saying, "There's no need to figure it out. In time, both the love and the hate will fade away." Chao Roxy didn't confirm or deny it, just shrugged. "Maybe, but you just used me again, didn't you?" "What about my payment?" I froze, wanting to ask how I had used her. Then it suddenly hit me. I remembered that remark I'd made to Su Xinyao about kissing Chao Roxy. I guess I had no choice, I just had to play along. You asked for some academic research papers, didn't you? In Chao Roxy's mind, academics had always come first. I couldn't help but reflect on my past life. Those materials that Chao Roxy had once spent a fortune to track down, yet I just heard her say, "Forget it, I don't need them anymore." I was stunned for a moment. Then I saw Chao Roxy looking at me with a calm, steady gaze. This time I want a kiss. I looked at her serious expression, a kiss. How did I not know you had a shameless side to you? Chao Roxy curled her lip. I don't need to explain myself to you. You just need to tell me, are you in or not? To be such a flirt and still be so confident about it. I shook my head, finding it almost funny. Sorry, but I'm not interested in these kinds of games. Continued. I'm not interested in these kinds of games. I turned to leave. But suddenly my wrist was grabbed. She yanked me back with force. I was caught completely off guard. I stumbled back a step, but Chao Roxy had already gripped my shoulders. She wrapped her arms around my neck. Right there in front of the busy teaching building, she pressed her lips against mine. My heart skipped a beat, then hammered against my chest. I reached out, trying to push her away. Chao Roxy's eyes were half closed. Beneath her long, thick lashes, her eyes were unnervingly calm. She watched every single reaction of mine. It wasn't until my ears turned bright red that she finally slowly let go. I recoiled, taking a sharp step back. The corners of Chao Roxy's mouth curled up slightly. So it's true, even when kissing someone you don't like, you really do blush. I bit my lip and wiped my mouth with my hand. My ears were burning red. But mostly it was from sheer anger. I had lived 27 years in my past life, and now, having been reborn, I actually just got forced into a kiss by a college sophomore. I took a deep breath. The anger on my face gradually faded into a forced calm. I stared right at Chao Roxy. With eyes as cold as ice, I asked, "Is this fun for you? I have class now, let go." My expression was completely indifferent. Chao Roxy froze for a second. He slowly released my wrist. I didn't even spare him a single glance. I turned around and walked into the teaching building, leaving Chao Roxy behind, just staring at my retreating back. He pursed his lips. He opened the notebook in his hands. Under the section labeled Research on Male Emotions, he wrote down, "Likes to say the opposite of what he feels." He paused for a moment, then added another line, "When kissed by someone he doesn't like, he feels..." His pen tip hovered over the words, "doesn't like." Chao Roxy fell silent for a long time. He closed the notebook. In this age of the internet, no matter what happens, news spreads in the blink of an eye. After my 2 morning classes, I checked the school forum. 2 photos had triggered thousands of hate comments. One was a picture of me kissing Su Xinyao. The other was me kissing Chao Roxy. The 2 photos were taken less than 10 minutes apart. The comment section was a storm of people calling me a two-timer and accusing me of being shameless. As for the fact that I had been forced into both kisses, no one cared. And honestly, I didn't care either. When I got back to my apartment after class, I saw Su Xinyao standing right at my door. The moment she saw me, she rushed up and grabbed my arm. She stood on her tiptoes trying to kiss me. I turned my head and the kiss landed on my cheek instead. Su Xinyao froze. Her eyes started to turn red. Why? Why can you kiss him but you won't kiss me? I took a deep breath. Chao Roxy and I are a couple now. And what are we supposed to be? I lifted my gaze and looked Su Xinyao straight in the eyes. It doesn't matter. So if you don't mind, move aside. I'm going home. I shoved Su Xinyao aside, stepped into the house, and slammed the door shut. But Su Xinyao suddenly reached out and jammed his hand into the door frame. There was a dull, heavy thud. The door slammed hard, catching his hand right in the middle. Su Xinyao let out a muffled groan. His face went pale. I panicked and instinctively grabbed his hand. Seeing those fair fingers already bruised and swollen, my heart gave a painful tug. Are you insane? I headed into the room to look for some antiseptic, but Su Xinyao suddenly wrapped his arms around me tightly from behind. You still care about me, don't you? Your expression, you can't hide it. I frowned and said, I'd react that way for anyone. Just like how you'd kiss anyone, right? Su Xinyao's voice turned hoarse. You really are cold-hearted, Gu Yu. I thought to myself, no matter how cold-hearted I am, it's nothing compared to what you did in our last life. I closed my eyes for a moment, remembering my past life. All those times Su Xinyao walked away and left me behind. My heart turned cold in an instant. I shoved him away, my voice icy. Since you're fine, you can leave now. And don't come looking for me ever again. Su Xinyao pressed his hand against the door before I could close it. Tomorrow is my birthday. You promised you'd spend it with me this year, remember? It was true, I had promised him. Not just this year. I had promised him that I would be there for every single one of his birthdays. But that was all in the past. I took a deep breath, looked down and said, fine. Fine, Su Xinyao. I'll be there tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll spend your last birthday with you, and tomorrow I will end this relationship once and for all. That evening, Su Xinyao sent over an address. Looking at the 3 words on that address, my heart sank. My expression darkened. Longhua Mountain was a long time ago, a small hill behind the street where we used to live. Ever since we moved away over a decade ago, we had never gone back. But that mountain held an immeasurable meaning for both Su Xinyao and me. It was the place where we first met. I let out a sigh. Just as I was about to put down my phone, I got a call from Chow Roxy saying, "Come downstairs." I was stunned. Then quickly walked over to the floor-to-ceiling window. I pulled back the curtains and saw a cold, solitary figure standing downstairs. As if he had heard the sound of the curtains being pulled back, Chow Roxy looked up. Across the distance of 3 stories, he gazed up at me. The warm orange streetlights reflected in his eyes, unaccountably giving him a touch of gentleness that didn't usually belong to him. I stood there in a daze, before quickly heading downstairs. "What are you doing here?" Chow Roxy pursed his lips. "I'm here to apologize for what happened earlier today. I was only researching a project. I never expected it would end up on the forum and cause such a massive stir for you." An apology, I stared at him. To be honest, I was still pretty angry. But at this moment, seeing Chow Roxy standing before me, head bowed and admitting his mistake, instead all my anger just vanished into thin air. I knew it. Chow Roxy is just a total nerd who can't think about anything besides his research. He definitely wouldn't know much about this kind of thing. Right under his bewildered gaze, I reached out and gave his shoulder a light, firm pat. "Don't do that again next time. You're always so buried in your work. It's like you're an NPC or something." Chow Roxy looked stunned. An NPC? I paused for a second, remembering that this was a slang term that wouldn't even be popular for a few more years. An NPC is just like a robot, someone with no real feelings of their own, with no emotions or thoughts of your own, only able to function according to preset programming. I guess that's pretty much what you're like. Chow Roxy frowned. "Really, is someone like that very annoying?" I shook my head. "Not annoying, but not exactly likable either." Chow Roxy looked at me softly. "But no one has ever taught me how to be." The moonlight landed in his eyes, pure and gentle like water. "Could you teach me? I can trade my things with you in return." Being watched by him with such a gaze, the tips of my ears turned slightly red. I hurriedly looked away. I was about to ask, "What could you possibly have to trade with me?" But the words stopped at the tip of my tongue and I held them back. "All right. I'll agree to it. The condition is that you have to come with me somewhere tomorrow." Early the next morning, when I stepped out, I saw Su Xinyao already waiting downstairs at my apartment building. "Morning." For the first time in so many days, I actually smiled at Su Xinyao. Su Xinyao's eyes lit up. "Are you in a good mood today?" I nodded, "Yeah. Of course I'm happy to be going out with someone I like." Su Xinyao froze. He looked at me intently. His heart skipped a beat. "Because of me?" Before he could finish his sentence, he saw me suddenly smiling and waving at someone behind him. Su Xinyao was taken aback. He turned around and saw Chow Roxy walking towards us. It was like a bucket of ice water had been poured over him from head to toe. His expression darkened instantly. He watched helpless as I easily took Chow Roxy's hand and smiled dotingly at him, saying, "You don't mind if I bring my girlfriend along, do you?" Su Xinyao stared at our tightly clasped hands as a chill from his heart began to freeze his entire body. He took a deep breath. "And if I said I did mind, would you leave her behind?" I shook my head, refusing to answer. He already knew the answer. I insisted on being with Chow Roxy, just like how I insisted on being with him before. Just like how I now insist on having absolutely nothing to do with him anymore. Once I've made a decision, it's really hard for anyone to change my mind. I used to change for him, but now I won't anymore. Yet he just doesn't get it. When exactly did I fall in love with Chow Roxy? Maybe it was because he kept taking me to see him. That's how I discovered that Chow Roxy was so much better than him. I realized that while he was crawling through the darkest depths of hell, Chow Roxy was like the sun in the sky, untainted and brilliant. But honestly, if you could be the sun, who would ever choose to be in hell? He used to think that I was the one who would climb out of hell with him. But now I'm standing on Chow Roxy's side instead. No matter how hard he tries to win me back, I'll never look his way again. What other options does he even have? Can these old memories make me soften my heart toward him just a little bit? Even just a tiny, tiny bit? By the time we reached the halfway point, it suddenly started to rain. The three of us headed to a nearby pavilion. Su Xinyao suddenly remarked, "The first time we met, it was a rainy day just like this. Right here in this very pavilion." I looked up in silence. The carving from over a decade ago was still there on the pillar. It looked exactly as it did back then, like nothing had ever changed. But I have changed completely. Back then, I had run away from home after fighting with my parents, and ended up getting lost in the mountains. It was pouring rain that night. I was all alone in this pavilion, terrified, screaming for help. Su Xinyao heard my cries, came over and comforted me the entire night. At dawn the next morning, she helped me walk down the mountain. Even years later, despite all the horrible things Su Xinyao has done to me, whenever I think back to that night, thinking of her cold and shivering but still holding me up and helping me home, Give me warmth. A girl who makes me feel at ease. I could forgive anything. Su Xinyao, but this kind of warmth will eventually be used up one day, saving my life through one night of hardship. To me, that's already been repaid. I didn't answer. Su Xinyao continued. I remember there's an old man downstairs who rents out tents. The old man from before. I cut him off right away. Then let's go rent a tent. Looks like we'll have to spend the night here. I was dead set on not reminiscing about the past with her. I took Chao Roxy's hand and started walking down. Su Xinyao watched my back, her pale lips pressed together slightly, and she followed us. I originally wanted to rent 3 tents, but it was a shame there were only 2 left. I gave one to Su Xinyao. Chao Roxy and I will take one. You can stay in yours alone. Su Xinyao was stunned. No, that won't work. I coldly cut her off. There's nothing that doesn't work about it. Su Xinyao, we aren't in the same relationship as before. I have a girlfriend now. From now on, my life will only be tied to my girlfriend, and not you. I shoved the tent into Su Xinyao's hands. If you still can't tell the difference between the past and the present, then tonight please make sure you see it clearly. You and I have nothing to do with each other anymore. My tone was icy without a hint of emotion. Su Xinyao stared at me intently. A chill from the bottom of her heart started to slowly flow through her blood. Those words she had rehearsed hundreds of times on the way here flew away in that instant, dispersed by my 4 cold, harsh words. We have no relation. In that split second, her heart ached so much she could barely breathe. All his reason vanished in that single moment. Unable to control himself, he blurted out, "Do you really like him that much? Do you care about him that much? If you absolutely had to choose between him and me, if only one of us could walk away from today alive." A lump formed in his throat. Yet unable to hold back his choked-up voice, he asked, "Would you choose him too?" Even knowing the answer was something he couldn't bear to hear, Su Xinyao still stared deep into my eyes, desperate for even the slightest hint that I cared. But there wasn't a trace of care to be found. I looked at him calmly amidst the torrential downpour. Calmly and cruelly, I watched him through the heavy rain. I'd say it was a pitch-black, lightless, rainy night. The endless, relentless rain draped a dark gray curtain over the entire world. Quiet raindrops fell onto the tent, creating a crisp, continuous rhythm. Chao Roxy hung the flashlight from the top of the tent. She only had to lower her head to see me lost in thought. He lowered his gaze and said, "Did you call me over here just for Su Xinyao again?" I looked at Chao Roxy and said calmly, "It's not for him. It's for myself. I told you before, if you know someone is destined to hurt you, it's best not to get too tangled up with them. Right now, I'm just protecting myself." Chao Roxy shook her head. "I don't understand." I turned to look at Chao Roxy. Her youthful face still carried a touch of innocence. Her eyes were so close to me, like black agates glistening, with a faint dark glow in the middle of the night. They were so pure, so flawless, as if she had never weathered any of life's storms. That's why she could be so firm and unwavering in her own beliefs. My heart softened inexplicably. "You don't need to understand." Chao Roxy frowned slightly. "Why do you guys always use that same excuse?" He lowered his eyes. "My mom says the same thing. Even my mentor says the same thing. It's like I'm just some machine built only to learn. You were right when you called me a human machine last time. I really am lost." He stared up at the top of the tent, looking a bit dazed. "Everyone keeps telling me, just do whatever it is you want to do. But what is it that I actually want? You all keep telling me I don't need to know. And you never share what's actually on your minds. The only reason I studied psychology was to figure out once and for all why human hearts are so incredibly complicated. To understand what the people around me are really thinking. But all my research ever tells me is that there is no answer. For me, there's just no result at all. Maybe I'll spend my whole life just living in a world of confusion." Chao Roxy turned his head to look at me. "Can you tell me why?" There was a faint glimmer in his eyes. My heart started to ache with a sudden ripple of emotion. I said, "Because sometimes not knowing is what makes things precious. Your mother, your mentor, and even I were all the same. We don't want you to see it. We don't want you to have to go through it. It's like a crystal ball. Something so beautiful shouldn't be tainted by anything dirty. You should just live in a vacuum forever, untouched by anything at all." Chao Roxy watched me quietly. His gaze deepened. "What if I want to step out of that vacuum?" He leaned in slightly. I was stunned and instinctively stepped back. But I lost my footing and started to fall backward. Chao Roxy grabbed my wrist and pulled me toward him. He looked deep into my eyes, his eyelashes trembling ever so slightly. "What if I want to be tainted too?" We were way too close. My breath almost completely stopped. At this distance, it felt like I could count every single one of his eyelashes. I could almost feel his breath. My heart started racing completely out of my control. Just then, Chao Roxy let go of my wrist. He kept moving closer to the outside of the tent. The light inside the tent, set against the curtain of rain, cast a clear silhouette of what was happening inside. In that shadow, the man was sitting on the ground looking up at Chao Roxy. The girl was half kneeling, slowly lowering her head. The two silhouettes gradually merged together, looking just like they were kissing. Su Xinyao clenched her fingers tight. The heavy rain soaked her through to the bone, As she stared at the scene inside the tent, her whole body tensed up tight as a wire. She squeezed her eyes shut, took a step forward and reached out to pull the tent zipper. But no sooner had she taken that step than she froze. Her mind flashed back to me looking at her with cold eyes, saying, Su Xinyao, the way you're acting just makes me loathe you. Su Xinyao, he loathes you. Su Xinyao slowly covered her eyes with her hands. Loathe. She stood there in the pouring rain for a long time, before slowly walking toward the pavilion. Inside the tent, just as Chao Roxy was, getting so close that our breaths were practically tangling together, I suddenly heard Chao Roxy say, a bug. I was stunned for a second, then turned my head, and saw Chao Roxy pick a bug off my hair. Chao Roxy sat back down, unzipped the tent, and tossed the bug outside. He wiped his hands clean with a tissue, and smiled, saying, time to sleep. I looked at his innocent, harmless expression, and said awkwardly, yeah, let's sleep. Because the tent was so small. That entire night, Chao Roxy just sat by the side of the tent all night long. The next morning when I was getting ready to return the tent, Su Xinyao still hadn't woken up. I called out, Su Xinyao, I'm heading out. There was no answer. I pulled open Su Xinyao's tent, but it was empty. My heart sank, and just as I was about to go look for her, I heard the old man from the tent next door call out, hey, young man. Someone collapsed over there in the pavilion. I think it's your friend. I frowned and immediately walked over to the pavilion. And there, Su Xinyao was curled up in the corner of the pavilion, sitting there as if she'd been out in the rain all night. Rainwater kept dripping down from her hair, sliding down her pale face. Her head was bowed, and her eyes were half closed. I walked over slowly and knelt in front of her. Su Xinyao, let's go home. Su Xinyao blinked her eyes hazy. Home. Rainwater slid off her lashes. For a second, I couldn't tell if it was tears or rain. She rasped, do I even have a home anymore? I used to think that where my mother was, that was home. Then she didn't want me anymore. I told myself, even though my dad was always beating me and abusing me, at least with him there, it still counted as a home. But then he died too. And later I thought that wherever you were, that would be my home. But you don't want me either. You don't want me anymore. Su Xinyao gripped my wrist tightly, the corners of her eyes bright red. Tell me, do I still have a home? My heart gave a painful tug. Looking at Su Xinyao like this right now, I thought I would feel happy, but my chest felt like it was blocked by her words. I couldn't bring myself to be cruel. I sat down beside Su Xinyao and whispered, do you remember when we were kids? And we didn't have any money to celebrate our birthdays. Su Xinyao looked at me. I smiled, stretched out my hands, and opened my palms, pretending as if I were holding a cake. I carefully placed it on the pavilion bench. Then I stuck some invisible candles into the air above the cake and pretended to light them. Back when we didn't have any money, we used to love fantasizing about being able to eat a cake. But later on, Su Xinyao and I made a lot of money. Yet we never again celebrated each other's birthdays with that same genuine heart. I watched Su Xinyao smiling, then told him it was time to make a wish. Su Xinyao froze for a moment. I patiently closed my own eyes. Su Xinyao slowly closed his eyes too. Facing a cake that wasn't even there, he childishly repeated his wish over and over again. Oh heaven, could you take all of his misfortune and trade it for just one sincere heart from Gu Yu? He doesn't need anything else. All he wants is one Gu Yu. Su Xinyao bit his lip. Suddenly, he heard my voice singing happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Just like it was a long time ago before there were parents, before Xie Huaijin, before Pei Lin, before Chao Roxy, before anyone else, it was just like that. I was singing only for him. Happy birthday to you, Su Xinyao. Su Xinyao's eyes began to sting with warmth. He slowly opened his eyes. Through his blurred vision, he heard me say to him, Su Xinyao, this is the last birthday I will ever celebrate for you. For the sake of all the memories we share, could you please just let me go?